NBA is a global league with an increasing number of fans and players from across the world. You got players from South America like Manu Ginobili, players in Europe like Jokic and Doncic, and you even got players from Asia like Yao Ming. So why is it that the country with the most population in the world has only ever had one NBA player ever? And that NBA player we're talking about is Satnam Singh from India. Now, I know there's another Indian NBA player called Sim Bhullar, but he was born and raised in Canada, which if we're talking about players actually born and raised in India, then Satnam Singh is the only one. I mean, the opportunities for basketball in Canada and India is night and day. In Toronto, you got gyms and courts everywhere with the Toronto Raptors playing in the city, while in India, a lot of people haven't even ever watched the NBA. What's crazier is that Satnam was born and raised in a tiny town in Punjab called Baloke, which only has 800 people living in it. I mean, that's wild, bro. In a country with over 1 billion people, he was born in a village with less than 1,000 people. There's a reason why there's a Netflix documentary about Satnam called 1 in a Billion, because quite literally, this was a 1 in a billion type of journey. This journey though started even before Satnam was born though, because to understand his story, you got to take it back to when his dad Babir was a young kid, where he was born in a tiny town in Punjab to a dad who was a wheat farmer, and his mom was a giant at 6'9", which is where he would get his height from. He would grow up to be over 7 feet tall, and everywhere he went, people would tell him to play basketball, which was a sport they've heard of but they've never seen. Babir though wouldn't be able to play basketball because there was no hoops in the village. The people in the village would tell him in nearby cities there were schools with courts. Babir seen that as an opportunity to leave the village where he would have a chance to make something of himself outside the village in the big cities, where he would get a chance to play basketball and get an education. However, Babir's dad wouldn't have it, and he refused to let him leave the village, to which Babir would have to obey because in Indian culture you listen to your parents, so he would. Babir would grow up to be just like his dad, a farmer, and he would take over the farm. He would live the normal farmer lifestyle, get married, and have 3 children, and was even elected as the head of the village. The middle child of the 3 children would turn out to be Satnam, who by 9 years old would reach 5'3", which was taller than most adults in the village. When it became evident that his son would become a giant like himself, Babir would give him the opportunity that he'd never had as a kid. Babir would take his son to a court nearby the village, and the first time he did, Satnam thought he was going to play volleyball. But when they arrived and Babir told him they would play basketball, Satnam understandably didn't know how to dribble or shoot, but Babir would be happy just to see his son do something that he never had the chance to. When they came back to home, Babir would mount a hoop to a brick wall outside the house and hand Satnam a new rubber basketball. And that right there was the start of Satnam's journey to the NBA. In the next couple of months, Satnam would spend hours every day practicing as confused villagers just watched the boy play a sport they've never seen before. He would also continue to grow, and he would grow to be as tall as his grandmother, and his hands would make the basketball look tiny, so the villagers would give him the nickname Chotu, which is Punjabi for little one. Satnam would help with the farm, and his dad would support his son by paying for trips throughout the Punjab region so Satnam could play basketball against other players in the area and get coached by the few people who knew how to coach. After a year of dominating the youth leagues in Punjab, one day his father would take him aside and promise to his son that he would do everything in his power to make sure Satnam had the best chance to succeed in the sport. Babir would ask his friends and neighbors for advice on how to support his son, and his friend Rajinder Singh would recommend a sports academy in Ludhiana, which was a city couple hours from the village. Rajinder would help them get in touch with the academy's administrators, and with that, Satnam would move to Ludhiana to train. In the next couple of years, Satnam would continue to train and improve at basketball, and grow to be even bigger at 6'11" and 230 pounds. And remember, he was only 13 years old at this time. Around this time though, something big would happen in India in terms of sports, as IMG and Reliance Industries would announce the creation of a new sports and entertainment marketing company called IMG Reliance. IMG is a US sports marketing and management company that also runs IMG Academy, which has produced NBA players like Jonathan Isaac, Kenyon Martin Jr., and Zach Edey, while Reliance Industries is one of the biggest corporations in India. IMG Reliance's goal would be to run a professional basketball league in India, so for that, they would attempt to build an infrastructure for basketball in the country, things like facilities, tournaments, and coaching. They would also announce they would provide full scholarships to train and go to school at IMG Academy for 4 boys and 4 girls 13 years old or younger. While those efforts would start up, Satnam would continue to get better, and in June 2010, with Satnam now 14 years old, led Punjab's state youth team to a national championship, which earned him an invitation to the NBA Basketballs Without Borders camp, where he would get to meet NBA players and coaches. He would stand out as he was the youngest player there, which got the head coach of the Indian national team Harish Sharma's attention, and he would invite Satnam to play at an all-star game against senior players. Satnam would accept and would hold his own against the best players in India, impressing the coach. Couple weeks later, IMG Reliance would meet with Sharma to ask for help in identifying prospects for their scholarship, and Sharma would recommend them to Satnam. They told him he was too old, but Sharma refused to budge, as he told him he thought Satnam could become India's as Yao Ming, which got their attention. That would earn Satnam an invitation to try out for the scholarship, and when he would try to explain this to his parents, they couldn't understand, which, to be honest, he didn't understand either. He knew it had something to do with going to America to get better at basketball with all expenses paid, which was good enough for him. His mom didn't enjoy the news as she didn't want Satnam to leave the family, but Babir immediately supported Satnam's decision and announced that the whole family would travel 7 hours to New Delhi to cheer him on. When Satnam and other tryouts arrived at the tryout, Satnam immediately got every IMG coach's attention as he was bigger than anybody there by a huge amount. At that point, he immediately earned a scholarship without even trying out, and soon Satnam would head to America to attend IMG Academy. When Satnam arrived in America, he was a completely raw prospect. He didn't know any English, had very bad coordination to the point coaches thought he might hurt himself just by running up and down the court, and couldn't even utilize his biggest strength, which was his size, because he barely ever had done any strength training other than farm work. Satnam though was a quick learner, and within a couple of weeks he learned enough English to get through any practice. He would even get coordinated enough to run up and down the court and was lifting weights and started getting stronger. He started to lose his fear of hurting people if he really banged the boards and started using his size to his advantage. However, as a giant, there is also a downside as he would deal with injuries to the knee, elbow, and nose in his first 4 years in IMG, and he would end up spending one more season at IMG. In his 5th season, he was finally healthy and would end up showing the abilities he's developed over the years as he averaged 9.2 points, 2.2 blocks, and 8.4 rebounds, which was impressive considering he was only playing in less than 20 minutes a game, and he was doing this on the number 2 team in the country. He had interest from universities like Purdue, Pittsburgh, and USC, but once it was clear that he couldn't play in the NCAA because of visa issues, that interest would dissolve. So instead, Satnam would declare for the draft, and he could do this because he spent 5, not 4 years in high school. There was definitely some excitement around Satnam, and not just because he was big, but he genuinely had abilities that backed him up as a player. For a center, he was actually a pretty damn good shooter and could pop a 3 here and there from pull-ups and pick and pop shots, and he also had pretty damn good footwork in the post. This was completely different to the Satnam that came to America 5 years ago and was just a testament to his work ethic. His size combined with his abilities made certain people believe that he could be a great player in the NBA, but there was also some concerns with him, most notably being his athleticism. He was very slow and stiff to a point where after watching Satnam work out once, Daryl Morey ruled him out and said that he didn't belong on an NBA floor. This concern would cause Singh to not get picked in the first round, but in the second round with the 52nd pick, the Mavericks would take him with their owner Mark Cuban saying in 4 or 5 years, if he continues to progress as he has, then he could become the face of basketball in India easily. Satnam getting picked in the draft made a lot of noise in India, with one of the biggest movie stars in India, who I'm probably going to butcher his name, Amitabh Bachchan, would congratulate him on Twitter, tweeting, "India goes to NBA. Now time for NBA to come to India." Satnam would start his career in the developmental league, which is where he would spend the next 2 years in, and unfortunately, he would never get promoted. He would decide to play in Canada and the Indian national team in hopes of coming back to the NBA. However, in 2019, while Singh was preparing for the South Asian Games, he would fail a drug test and be suspended from playing for the Indian national team for 2 years. Satnam would decide to use this as an opportunity to transition into another venture, wrestling. Wrestling was actually on his radar for a couple of years now, as in 2017, while Satnam was with the Mavericks developmental team, WWE invited him for a workout. This was the same year that the WWE had their first ever Indian WWE champion, and while Satnam would have fun in the workout, he would decide to keep focusing on making it to the NBA at that time. When he got suspended from playing for the Indian national team, AEW would reach out to Satnam to sign him. Satnam would be mentored by a fellow giant wrestler, The Big Show, who said Singh was an ideal fit for wrestling due to his footwork from playing basketball. I was curious about his wrestling career, and I found this website where users comment on wrestlers, and I gotta say, he's had a pretty mixed time in the AEW. Somehow, one of his problems in wrestling is the same as the reason why he didn't work out in the NBA, and that's how slow he is. Which, I didn't even know that was a problem in wrestling as a giant. I mean, what do you expect? Some Rey Mysterio type of moves? Another one of his problems apparently is he apparently has no charisma, and it seems like he's being used as a bit of a goofy character in the AEW. Which, I mean, why would you do that? If you have some big ass giant, wouldn't it make sense to make him some tough, imposing dude? On the bright side, he recently won the tag team championship in Lucha Libre AAA in Mexico with Raj Desi, who's also known as Jinder Mahal. I don't know how his wrestling career is going to turn out, but at the end of the day, he did something that no other Indian has ever done, which, who knows, might inspire the next generation of Indians to reach the NBA. I mean, dude, just imagine an Indian dude playing in the NBA and postering people and talking shit with an Indian accent. That would be mad entertaining, not gonna lie, that would be cinema.